All right, so I am just watching the news about Indiana, etc., with the abortion stuff. I walked home today, and this was kind of a weird walk for me because I walked home the day before, and it didn't really bother me at all. And today didn't really bother me, the walking, but I did remember a very vivid picture of walking home after an abortion. And I think that's come because I've healed, and I haven't ever really thought about walking home much with the abortion. I just was literally walking home today, and when you have healed from trauma, usually other memories come up. So I'm just kind of walking home today, and I'm looking at the sidewalk, and I'm on the road, and I'm thinking about I guess the Bible studies too. We're learning again how much God loves us, and not just me, but the whole sisterhood of Christians. And I grew up in a really catty environment with girls. I had a few really good friends, but a lot of it was catty. So as I'm feeling more of the love of Christ, I am walking home and healing from at the memorial, releasing my baby, releasing the pain. I'm just remembering the vividness. I was also at McDonald's, and one of the girls I was talking to there, she's like, see, me and your abortion was different. You were forced, and I chose two of mine. And I guess maybe that's what happened too, because we were talking about abortion, and I'm walking home, and I'm like thinking about it and thinking about it, and I'm thinking, wonder who went by when you were walking. Like, who cares? I mean, who cares? Who knew in a small town who went by me? I don't know if it was someone I knew, because, I mean, a small town, everyone knows everyone. And I was like, really didn't matter. I wasn't there. I had my jean coat on. I was walking home. I had hardened my heart at that point a little bit. And there was some relief, but then my heart was hardened again just with going home and hearing, your sister had an abortion, keep your mouth shut, and just the stuff that happened. So I'm walking today, and I'm just thinking about that, and I'm like, you should have never had to walk home. If you had been protected as I should have been, women are precious. I'm like, you wouldn't have even had to walk home. And if you did walk home, you should have had someone with you. And if you did have someone with you, why would they have you walk home? And I'm like, then you shouldn't have even had an abortion. What were you doing having an abortion? So as I think about this forced abortion, I'm just like, you know what? It should have never happened. I mean, it was just so wrong in so many ways. And, I just want to say, if anyone is thinking of having an abortion, don't. It is one of the worst things that can happen. And I see these news anchor women, and I'm like, you are a woman. You are a woman, and you should know better. You're doing the news, and you're propaganding, you're encouraging abortion, and you're a woman. Is it because women work so much nowadays that they have become so masculine that they are not connected to their nurturing side? I mean, a girl is different. She's never had motherhood, teen girls, okay? But you've got women in the news department just not only telling the news, but being biased about abortion. And these women know better. They're much older. And I don't know. I've been thinking about things today. I'm like, okay, so what is an older woman supposed to do? I mean, you see older women they've got their careers and everything, and there's nothing in of itself wrong with a career. But what about, don't you remember being young? Don't you remember enjoying, a husband and having babies and stuff? I don't know if just our society is so focused on careers that women have left their natural use, as the Bible talks about, and just they no longer care to be women who stay home and they're mothers. And I think that we need to be really careful as Christian women that we don't let career take control of our lives over being wives and mothers. I mean, it's such a high calling, and I don't know if women in the world, maybe because they're not Christians, they don't get that. They don't see the calling. They don't see how important it is. I think a lot of women, especially feminists, will see child rearing as just work and slave work or whatever, when it's so untrue. And then even today in my Bible study with Lisa Harper, I really enjoy listening to the way she talks, the way she puts things. And she was talking about in Numbers, and I haven't read this, but in Numbers, how the men, the inheritance laws, the men were getting the sons were getting the inheritance, and the woman asked Moses and said, hey, wait a minute, shouldn't we be getting the inheritance? And God said, Moses went to God, and God said, the daughters are right. You know, before you give that inheritance to your son, if he dies, your son dies, before you give it to your brother's sons, that inheritance is going to my daughters. So this is way before the feminist movement. And God already in the Old Testament did care about women if you study it carefully. And even with, and this will probably get some hate comments, but this was eye-opening to me. The Old Testament somewhere, I got to look it up because this is new to me. It said, you know, basically rape back then, if a guy like stole a woman's innocence and virginity and raped her, he now had to not only pay her father money for a savings, and back then women didn't have property, so now she had to have a savings, and he had to marry her. And that can sound awful. It can sound like, oh my goodness, you know, she's marrying her rapist. But actually, I think it was something that men had to think about again. Like, okay, if I rape this woman, by law, I have to marry her. I have to take care of her for the rest of my life. Do I really want to do that? And I know it sounds kind of odd, but there were consequences for men back then too, to think twice before they did something. And I think of that kind of like with child support nowadays, like before you have kids, you need to think about if you're going to pay child support for the rest of your life. So I don't know, we can just see God's mercy even in that. And although it's kind of messy, there was a sense of mercy there where God made sure that woman who would be considered damaged goods because she had been raped would now be taken care of for the rest of her life if somebody did that. And I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying there was some mercy in that situation. So we do have a God who loves women. He loves his daughters. He loves us. And, you know, it's just, abortion just doesn't fit in the picture. If you love yourself as a woman and you can see your value, why would you abort your baby? Why would you? You would have the strength and the ability to say, I'm not doing that. So that's kind of what I got today. And I just encourage anyone who's thinking of abortion, don't do it, because it will come back on you. And like I said, I was walking today and just those memories were coming back of the walk, which I haven't thought of in years. And that's what the mind does. The mind just, sometimes you can't handle some things, so the mind just blocks it off until you can.